Hey, what up, guys? Coming here this morning with another What's Next. This one's on former WBO heavyweight champion Joseph Parker. He's currently my number 8 heavyweight in the world right now. He's ranked number 2 by the WBO, and he's not in line. There's nothing set up yet. He's actually seeking an opponent. He last fought in February when he scored a 6-round TKO over a no-name opponent, just a nobody opponent, staying busy. He's trying to get in line for something big, though. He's willing to fight anybody. It doesn't look like he could have. There's a possibility he could fight for the vacant WBO title next, but that's kind of a long shot. We'll get into the details when we run through the top 10. And other than that, there's nothing really going on. So there were talks of Michael Hunter calling him out, but we'll talk about that as well as we run through the top 10. So the big question is, what's next for former heavyweight champion Joseph Parker? Well, we start with number 1, Tyson Fury, the WBC champion. Fury has a mandatory 3rd fight due with Deontay Wilder, so Joseph Parker definitely would not be able to fight Fury next. Number 2 is a rematch with current unified heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua. These two guys fought in 2018 to unify belts, and Joshua handed Parker his first loss and took the title by a somewhat close but unanimous decision in favor of Joshua. This was actually the first time Joshua had went, and still the only time Joshua went the distance, a full 12 rounds. Outside of the Andy Ruiz rematch, I'm sorry. Next at so no chance of this fight happening right here. Joshua has a mandatory due against Kubrat Pulev, and it wasn't a pretty fight, so I think he'd stay away from a Parker rematch anyways, unless he absolutely had to. Number 3 is former longtime heavyweight champion Deontay Wilder. Wilder has a mandatory 3rd fight coming with Tyson Fury later this year, so there's no chance of this one. Number 4 is former unified champion Andy Ruiz Jr., which would be a rematch from their 2016 WBO title fight where Parker defeated Ruiz by a close, somewhat controversial majority decision. It was a close fight. Some people felt Ruiz won. The fight was in New Zealand, where Parker is from, and a lot of people feel that's why Parker got the decision and got the nod that night, was because he was fighting at home. Be that as it may, he handed Ruiz his first defeat. Ruiz's only other loss has been to Anthony Joshua in their rematch last year. So would Ruiz be willing to fight Parker next? I wouldn't completely rule it out, but I don't believe he wants to jump right in after losing to Joshua in his last fight. He's got a new trainer. I think he really wants to come back, take kind of a tune-up first, get a win under his belt, and then move forward towards top 10 guys after that. So maybe he wants revenge on Parker down the road, but definitely not now. And he probably wants a more meaningful fight, final eliminator, title fight type deal, if he's going to go down that road. Number 5 is former world title challenger Luis Ortiz. I don't see Andrew Ruiz and Luis Ortiz and Joseph Parker locking horns, although these two guys are very avoided. Parker is not the easiest fight to make, and he's not a big name, so people avoid him. Luis Ortiz goes through the same thing. I could see possibly Parker going after maybe an eliminator in the WBC against a guy like Ortiz. I could see that fight going down, but Matchroom would have to get together with the PBC. I think Matchroom's probably down to make other fights in that, him fight Matchroom guys, which would stop it, but I wouldn't completely rule it out either, so it could happen. Number 6 in the heavyweight division right now is Oleksandr Usyk, the undefeated and former undisputed cruiserweight champion. I think this fight's possible. It could happen. It definitely could happen, and it could happen next, because if Anthony Joshua defeats Kubrat Pulev, which most feel that he will, myself included, and I think he's going to knock him out, he has a mandatory due against Oleksandr Usyk. Usyk's already the mandatory, so you wouldn't have to face Parker. But if Joshua decided to move on and face the winner of the Fury and Wilder 3 fight, then he, to unify belts, he would have to give up the WBO title and Usyk would have to fight the next available contender for the belt, which would be Joseph Parker at number 2. So I think from that stance, it could happen. Do I think it will happen? No, because I believe Joshua is going to get his other mandatory out of the way in Usyk either at the end of the year or beginning of 2021. And then the winner of Fury and Wilder will get their interim title and mandatory out of the way in Dillian White by February, because that's when that mandatory is due. And then after that, the sky's the limit. The two could clash. The two sides could clash. Personally, I think it's going to be an all British battle between Fury and Joshua when the smoke clears. But that's what it's looking like. So I don't think Parker has a chance of fighting Usyk, because I think Usyk's going to face Joshua. Number 7 would be a rematch with current WBC interim champion Dillian White. They fought back in 2018. It was a great fight, back and forth, hurt each other. Parker knocked White down. White walked away with a very close 12-round decision. Very close fight right here. Very good heavyweight bout. Parker got nothing to, put his head down about. He walked away as the loser, but I don't think Dillian White wants anything to do with Joseph Parker next. He beat him. He's got that claim to his fame. He's facing Alexander Povetkin next, most likely, and Joseph Parker's kind of in the rear view. Not a big name, and he's a dangerous opponent. Parker's number 8 now against the 3 guys that are tied for 9th. Kubrat Pulev out. He's fighting Anthony Joshua next for the unified heavyweight championship, so there's no chance of him fighting Pulev. The next guy would be, after Pulev, would be Michael Hunter, who I think there's a very good possibility he could fight Michael Hunter. Michael Hunter's in the WBO ratings. He's not too far down, and I honestly believe that Parker could face Hunter to move up the ladder and seal himself as the next number 1 in the WBO. Plus, it's an easy fight to make because they're both in Matchroom. So I definitely think that this fight is possible, and I think it's probably the most likely option, and very well could happen. And then the last guy tied for 9th, is former champ Alexander Povetkin. Povetkin is lined up to face Dillian White for the interim title, so this fight's not going to happen with Parker. I don't think it has a chance of happening next. So that's it for the top 10 and who Joseph Parker could face. Now, who do I think he's going to face? Personally, I'm leaning towards the fact that I think he could face Michael Hunter next. It's a matchroom fight. Both guys want to stay busy and move forward and move up the ladder and fight the best. Michael Hunter's coming off the Povetkin fight. He's solid. He's fought for a world title at cruiserweight against Usyk. So, Parker to get him on his resume would be good for him, and Michael Hunter to get Parker on his resume would be good. It's high risk for both fighters, but that's what you got to do to move up the chain, especially when you don't have a big name. You got to keep adding to your resume. So I really think there's a good chance these 2 guys could lock horns once the pandemic is lifted and we're able to get back to boxing. I also think he could just stay busy and face a nobody, but I think he's done with that. I think he's waited around long enough. He's pretty much taken 2 tune-up bouts since the back-to-back losses last year in 2018 to Anthony Joshua and then Dillian White, and now he wants to move forward and fight the best. So that's what I think is going to happen. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this. That's the What's Next on Joseph Parker, former heavyweight champion. True Boxing, been hit with the truth.